Hey guys, welcome to the first training on how the fundamentals of workflows and automations work in Go High Level. This is Beyond with Extendly for High Level, where we are on to making your high level journey easier and faster. All right, so in today's training, we're going to learn fundamentals of workflow and how the workflows work. So the workflows, the automations rather, there are three types. There's workflows, campaigns, and triggers. Campaigns and triggers are the older format that High Level is potentially going to get rid of anytime. Everything new is done in workflows. Workflows make it easy for you to create automation, have triggers and actions take place. It's essentially campaigns and triggers and much more all in one. Put together. To start off, we're going to go ahead and click on create workflow, and then we can click on start from scratch. And then once you've selected start from scratch, go ahead and press create new workflow one more time. And as soon as the workflow loads, it brings us to this blank canvas. Really, we can name our workflow to anything we like, something relative related to what the actions are being taken place in here. And then there is a trigger and actions. You can add almost an unlimited amount of actions in here as you like. And you can get creative with if-then statements, if-else statements rather, and wait times and a whole bunch of external communication, CRM actions here that are available, and as well as conditions such as if-else, wait, webhook, and go-to steps. Go-to steps make it really easy to have repetitive actions being taken place. We'll go over that in a bit. All right, and what are triggers? Triggers are something that needs to happen in order for this workflow to trigger, right? So some of the common examples are a form being filled out by someone on your website, call being scheduled, or an appointment being scheduled through a calendar. And High Level does a great job of making all of these sections available right here for you to allow triggers from. So these are all the different types of triggers that are available that can start a workflow. And then these are membership triggers that relate to the membership side of High Level. So let's assume you are having someone book an appointment, right? There's a trigger that runs on all appointment status updates. And then there's also a trigger that runs when a customer books an appointment. So there's a difference between both of these. And the difference here is this is going to be when a status change happens in an appointment. A status change in an appointment is when you've gone from a new appointment and marked it to confirmed or showed or no-show or canceled. Any of those is a status change. That's a status update that is being performed by a user inside the CRM. It is going to then trigger this workflow. Now, a status change can also happen when a customer books an appointment and they are automatically to be marked as confirmed or some other status. And that's also is triggering a status change. So any status that is assigned to an appointment triggers this particular workflow. And then this one is only triggered when someone actually goes onto your calendar on your website or the landing page and books an appointment. This is customer facing, right? This is not the user using the appointment booking widget inside High Level. This is customer facing where they're using the calendar widget to actually book an appointment. So that's how that one is triggered. So that's the difference between the two. Anyways, we are going to go over in another training all about all of what these triggers do and how they perform in here and what you should be using them for. All right, so today I want you to basically understand how this functions, right? So let's go ahead and select an appointment status. And we're going to say appointment status is, let's go with confirm. All right. So someone booked an appointment and their status is confirmed. only then we want to trigger this workflow, right? I always like to name the triggers as well. So in this case, I would name it something like, well, it actually already says appointment. It seems like status is confirmed. All right, so I'm not going to worry about the spelling and stuff right now. Okay, so status is confirmed. And then you can add on an additional trigger. So you can add multiple triggers. If I wanted to, I can add another type of trigger that I may want to use to trigger the same exact workflow. Now let's assume I also want to use the customer booked an appointment in a particular calendar, and let's just say it's this calendar, right? And I can then take a look at other tags and see if I want to trigger. I can even say user is, select a user from here, or if they only have this type of tag or whatnot. I can do a whole bunch of other filters to make sure that it only triggers if all those conditions, all those filters I'm putting in place match. Then this trigger will trigger, right? So now I could have done customer booked appointment regardless of what the status is. If a customer booked an appointment, it's going to have this trigger run through, this workflow activate. But I don't want to run just because a customer booked an appointment on any calendar. I only want this to happen when they've booked an appointment on this 15-minute calendar, all right? And then I can go ahead and further define, and only if the tag is, let's say, if they have an existing tag of whatever that is, attempted to contact lead, right? That means only then this trigger will run. And I would also name this workflow as best practices so it's easy to understand. Customer booked an appointment on a 15-minute calendar, right? So you can, without having to open up a trigger, you can tell right from there that exactly what is causing this workflow to be activated. Now, this means this workflow will activate when it meets either one of these conditions, right? There's an important part that I'm going to cover regarding calendars and the calendar workflow that I won't go over now in detail, but calendars are the only item that will allow a user to enter into a workflow multiple times. So just keep that in mind. Everything else, every other trigger, if the user is existing in a workflow, they will not be able to re-enter into that workflow until they've exited that workflow, and then they've met that condition again to do so. All right, next up is starting to add actions. So an action could be send an email, right? So you would define an email here, and first name, last name, wherever you want the from name to be, from email to be. In our case, we use custom values to cover this. We have what's called business short name as a custom value. So we say custom value business short name. And then we have a from email in here under our custom values that we use to throw in there for from email. You can enter any sort of subject, say confirmation, for whatever date, time, and anything you want to put in the subject line, you can do that. And hi, this is to confirm your appointment. All right, so that's that. And then you can, of course, format this email to add additional custom values like user signature and this and that, all on here. All right, so now you've created this email. And again, as best practices, something I like to do, and I've made sure all of my team does as well, we always name this action to define exactly what this action is. So in this case, it's a confirmation email. So I would name it confirmation email in here. Then you can have a text message go out, right? Along with it, you can say, hey, here's a confirmation text message for you booking your appointment, right? So what we're basically doing is we're adding a trigger, which is a cause. Something needs to happen in order for this workflow to activate, right? And in this case, the cause is what's causing this workflow to trigger is the calendar booked appointment on the calendar, or an appointment status is marked as confirmed. So either one of those status changes is going to trigger this workflow, and it's going to activate someone to go in here. And now actions are these items: an email, an SMS. These are all actions. We can do a lot of things in here like send an email, which we have already done an action. We can do an internal notification to notify someone by email or an app, SMS, and this goes to an internal user, whoever this user is assigned to. We can add a note. We can, place a call if we wanted to. All these options here that are possible to do. We can definitely add tags, remove tags. We can add them or remove them from workflows. One of the things I like to do on calendar appointments is remove them from any sort of no-show or canceled workflows, canceled appointment workflows, right? So that's generally the first item that we add on top of this is we want to remove them from, in our case, it's a Z002 folder. So let's go to Z002. So canceled meeting or a no-show meeting, we want to remove them from those workflows just so that if they've already booked an appointment, we don't want them to be receiving messages that are saying, hey, let's go ahead and reschedule your meeting or whatnot, right? So you want to keep that in mind. So when you're building these workflows, you definitely want to keep in mind what other actions that I have already built inside other workflows that could be active when this happens, that would contradict with the messaging or actions that are being received from this particular workflow. So the scenario is, here's a scenario since we're talking about calendars and appointments here. Let's say I came on to ABC website and booked an appointment, and then I'm like, oh shoot, you know what? I need to cancel my appointment. So I canceled the appointment, and now, originally I was receiving automation related to your appointment is booked, and here are the reminders, right? Then I've canceled my appointment. Now I need to make sure that I am no longer receiving, because I've clicked the cancel button to cancel my appointment, I need to make sure that person is no longer receiving those messages that your appointment is still booked, right? So when an appointment cancels, we need to have a remove from workflow enabled. Now I'm receiving those messages that say, hey, no worries, you've canceled your meeting, whatever, let's go ahead and reschedule for another time that works better. So I go in and let's say I reschedule the meeting, right, for a different time. And this workflow, the canceled meeting workflow, would be set to normally remind me a few times. You missed your meeting or you canceled your meeting. Would you like to reschedule in multiple different ways, right? It would drag out a few days just to grab my attention and make sure that I'm actually being able to book myself back on the calendar, that I just don't forget about it and never book an appointment again with this company that I'm going to be doing business with. That's what the company wants. They want to remind me over and over again, hey, you canceled your meeting, but it's okay. Let's go ahead and book another appointment, right? Now, as a user or a potential customer to this company, I go in and book another appointment, right? And now I'm going to receive a confirmation message and reminder. So something similar to this workflow in here. And if I'm receiving these messages related to confirmation, and if I don't have this remove from workflow, remove from the canceled meeting workflow or the no-show meeting workflow in place, then I will still continue to receive messages from that other workflow as well, right? By default, it doesn't automatically recognize that this person canceled the meeting, that they rescheduled again, and stop sending them this message and start sending them this message. HighLevel's allowed us so much customization. So for that reason, we need to tell the system that this is what we want us to do. We want it to do, right? So when this happens, now we want the canceled meeting workflow to stop, which is why I add the action, remove from workflow, and then have the confirmation and reminders start for the new appointment that they've booked. So that's in a nutshell. That's how workflows work. We're going to go further in detail about how to build workflows for particular scenarios in our next training videos. But in a nutshell, that's the overall view of workflows. There's a trigger, then there's actions, and actions happen when something causes that trigger to activate that workflow. If that trigger was never activated, then that work was never met, or the conditions in that trigger were never met. It would never activate that particular workflow. And when a workflow gets activated, then unless there's wait times put in place, which we most certainly can as well, there will not be, it would trigger out all of those, let's just say 5 minutes, right, of a wait time. And again, a little pet peeve here. So we always kind of name these to define exactly what it says. So I don't have to go on there and see, well, how much is that wait time? All right, so now this will continue to trigger, and there may be more action. This could be a long, large workflow, just like some of the ones that we have built. And there could be many, many actions in here. And I'm going to go ahead and show you one of those workflows. Now, that workflow continues until it's reached the end, or another workflow causes for it to trigger, and that causes the a remove from workflow action to be activated. So, for example, the canceled workflow, right? Canceled meeting workflow. So here's an example of the calendar workflow that we have. We've got all of these remove from workflows put in place, then confirmations and reminders, internal notifications. But this is what can remove someone from a workflow without it finishing all the way till the so that's something you want to keep in mind, that there's two ways to remove from a workflow, either by adding a remove from workflow action in another workflow, or it just having to go all the way down and finishing up the workflow in whatever conditions that are set into that work. All right, so a quick recap: a trigger and action. That's really it. A trigger and action. That's what starts a workflow to come in to whatever actions are defined inside of that workflow. And defining actions, there's a bunch of these over here that you can look at to state what you want, what actions you want to take. Now, a little tip in here, if you've stayed all the way till the end, a little tip in here is always use add a note into your workflows. So we use this thing called systematic note. This is a lifesaver. And it is a huge troubleshooting aspect for my team. So we always add the workflow number, systematic note, workflow number Z001-1. And then remaining of it, we're giving the details to the user, whatever the details that they may need to know. So we're automatically creating a log for them inside that contact to tell them that, hey, here are the details of this user so that they're helpful to you. This is when they booked an appointment and whatnot. If you ever need to go back and take a look at it, you're able to see a log of all the activity that's happened inside notes with that contact. And you can do this systematically in an automated way through workflows. Since you know they're entering this workflow and it's to schedule an appointment, here's all the details related to that appointment that they scheduled. Now, for us, this is the most important part right here. Workflow number Z001-1. Otherwise, if you don't have this in place, there's almost no way for you to know that a workflow has triggered and which one it was that triggered. So if you're going back and trying to troubleshoot, hey, something fired off and we don't know what fired off and where it came from, we can simply go into that customer's contacts notes, and the first item it's going to say is workflow number, and then we know, okay, perfect, that's the last workflow that fired off. Now we know exactly where to go and troubleshoot. All right, so that's one of the reasons why our support requires our method of framework. It's a very tiny reason, but one of the many that we require our framework to be put in place, because we have a very particular way we build our snapshots and our workflows, and it's all to make the support for your end users easy, right? I always say that we want to be the reason we help you keep your clients, not lose your clients, right? So, and along with the future trainings, I'm going to share more of these tiny little tips that we've implemented. I've shared a few today if you've caught them, but we'll continue to share more that making workflows easy and help with automation. All right, folks, thank you very much for watching this quick training here. I hope you were able to get a good understanding on what workflows are and how they work. They are extremely important to know about and to learn about within HighLevel. This is literally the core, the engine, what drives the automation inside HighLevel. Without workflows, the HighLevel wouldn't be as powerful as it is today, but this is along with, of course, there's many other features that are commendable, but workflows is one of my top favorites here. All right, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.